Hello folks and welcome. Today we're going to be looking at Friends Season 1, Episode 8, the one where Nana dies twice. And if you're new to these videos, then hello, my name is Scott. And have you ever watched one of these sitcoms and there's been some pop culture references that pop up and you're like, I don't quite get what they're referring to there. I know it's meant to be a joke. I know it's meant to be a little bit of a reference, but I don't quite understand the background behind it. Well, the purpose of these videos is to go over each one of them and give some context so that next time you watch that episode in your personal watch through, you'll have all of the information and you'll be able to enjoy that joke a lot better as if you were there and you were actually laughing like one of the characters as it's been scripted that they should laugh to it. And don't forget, as you're watching that, the comment section is open down below, so feel free to leave any comments on any pop culture references that pop up that you already knew or any that you didn't know, and after all this time you finally got some context, you finally, the veil has been lifted, you can finally understand it, and just tip tap, let me know. And if you're enjoying this video, feel free to give it a like, but also why not hit the subscribe button as well, because then you won't miss out on any future videos that come out, whether it's to do with Friends, Gilmore Girls, or any other shows or videos that I'll be making on this channel. If you hit the subscribe button, then there you go, it'll pop up in your feed. Easy as that. And just let you know that I also have a Patreon as well. So if you want to support me making these videos a little bit further, then feel free to head over to there. The link will be in the description down below. And there are a few different tiers to choose from, but two of them give you exclusive content that won't be seen on any other public forum. And that'll be made up of these short explaining jokes, but also in time, full-length videos such as this on other shows that I won't be covering on my main YouTube. And anybody who does support me on Patreon will be getting a shout out and a thank you within these videos as well. So feel free to head over there if you want to check it out. But enough of the intro, let's jump into the episode. And I think you should dress up smart because we've got to go to a funeral. Ross and Monica's Nana is in the hospital. She doesn't have long to live and the family are reminiscing about her.
Fuzzy little mitts at the bottom of her purse.
Oh, yeah, they were gross. Oh, you know what I love? Her sweet and lows. How she was always stealing them from restaurants.
Not just restaurants, from our house.
So this is the second appearance of Sweet and Low in the season thus far. The first one was in the pilot episode when Rachel comes in her bridal gown. She orders a coffee and wants some Sweet and Low and Ross puts it in her coffee, yada yada. And what Sweet and Low is an artificial sweetener made of saccharin, except in Canada where it is cyclamate. And that is because when it was first introduced in 1958, it used to be a cyclamate formula. But then in 1969, they switched it over to a saccharin-based formula, except in Canada where it was still remained to be cyclamate. So yeah, you would just have that in your coffee or tea instead of sugar because sugar is very unhealthy for you. So you would have an artificial sweetener, a little thing to be able to just sweeten up what it is so it tastes like sugar, even though there are some things about how saccharins aren't actually good for you and all of that. But anyway, they come in these little packets as seen here. And yeah, very easy for restaurants to stock them, but also apparently the Geller's household having them as well, little packets that Nana would just steal, just pilfer as much as possible and put them away. And that clip isn't just a throwaway reference because we actually get to see later on just how many packets of Sweet and Low Nana actually took. But personally, I've never actually had Sweet and Low in something because I don't drink coffee, I don't drink tea. And so I once had some just by itself to see what it was like. And I was, it's absolutely vile. It definitely needs to be in something. It's not like when you're a kid and you just have a spoonful of sugar. Helps the medicine go down. Or if you keep taking too many spoonfuls of sugar, you will need medicine. So it's chicken or egg in that instance, isn't it? Now that Nana has definitely passed, Ross and Monica go back to Central Perk and the gang share their thoughts on death.
Oh, and Debbie, my best friend from junior high, got struck by lightning on a miniature golf course. I always get this really strong Debbie vibe whenever I use one of those little yellow pencils,
So these little pencils, yeah, you see them in golf courses, you see them in IKEA. They are just little pencils. I thought I had one here. I don't know why I went to look as if I had one when I haven't even seen one for years. I just thought there'd be one on my desk somewhere. But anyway, they are little pencils. Little pencils, easy to handle, and the reason they're that small is because it's just convenient, isn't it? If you've just got a little pad for you to write something down on, you don't want a huge pencil. This is a pen, but you don't want a huge pencil sticking out, have to put anywhere. Just a little one that you can put away. But the reason I want to bring this up is because there is a reason why they are yellow. A lot of these little pencils have been painted yellow ever since the 1890s. And that's because the thing inside a pencil that actually makes the markings on the paper is graphite. And at the time, in the late 1800s, the world's best graphite was found and made in China. And in China, the color yellow is associated with royalty. And so consumers elsewhere, they would get these graphite-based products and it would be painted in yellow and you would go, oh, it must be good then because this graphite is from China and it is decorated with the color associated with their royalty, so that must mean it is top-notch. How about that? Just a little pencil with a big, big story. And now we're at Nana's funeral.
What? Nothing. Just your overcoat sounds remarkably like Brent Musburger.
Brent Musburger is a prominent American sportscaster known for his long career covering a wide range of sports. He became a household name for his work as a broadcaster for CBS Sports, where he covered NFL games, college football, basketball, and the NBA, amongst other major events. And he was particularly known for his time hosting the NFL Today pregame show. His career spanned several decades until his partial retirement in 2017. After leaving ESPN, to which he moved to in the 90s, Musburger became involved with the Las Vegas-based sports betting network VSiN, which is the Vegas Stats and Information Network, where he continues to provide commentary on sports betting. And he is regarded as one of the most versatile and influential voices in sports broadcasting history. And so if you want someone to give an exciting blow-by-blow account of what's happening, you better call on Brent Musburger. I'm sure he could definitely liven up this funeral. I hope you're enjoying the video so far, folks. Thank you so much for being here. And I just want to give a little reminder that if you don't want to miss out on future videos, then hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of that come out. But also, if you want to support me in another way, then I have a Patreon as well. The link will be in the description down below. And over there, you'll have access to exclusive content that won't be seen on any public forums. And at the end of these videos, your name will appear as a supporter and producer of these videos. So if you want to be included there as well, then head over to Patreon. As I say, the link is in the description down below. But enough about that. Thank you for the interruption, and now let's return to the regularly scheduled broadcasting. Now it's the end of the episode and Chandler is taking a rest in the break room at his work, and the guy he was going to be set up with, Lowell, comes in.
Oh, hey, Chandler. So how's it going down there in financial services? It's like Mardi Gras without the papier-mâché heads.
Mardi Gras, which means Fat Tuesday, is a carnival celebration that precedes Ash Wednesday, the beginning of the Christian season of Lent. The tradition of Mardi Gras originated in medieval Europe with influences from Roman and pre-Christian festivals such as Saturnalia and Lupercalia. This European celebration made its way to North America in 1699 when French-Canadian explorer Jean-Baptiste Lemoyne Sieur de Bonneville, I've probably said that entirely incorrectly. Well, anyway, he arrived near what is now New Orleans. He established a French colony there and called the location Pont du Mardi Gras when his crew realized that they had actually landed on the eve of the holiday. And by the 1730s, Mardi Gras was celebrated in New Orleans and the festivities gradually grew more elaborate. By the 19th century, the celebration had developed into a grand spectacle with parades, masked balls, and street parties. The first organized parade took place in 1837, and over time, secret societies known as crews began forming to create floats and host events. Today, Mardi Gras is synonymous with colorful parades, music, bead throwing, and elaborate costumes that draw millions of visitors to New Orleans every year. And I once went to New Orleans, but unfortunately, it was like the week after Mardi Gras, but there was still so much atmosphere, so many beads, so much revelry. Oh, they were good memories. But yes, one of the most distinctive aspects of Mardi Gras parades is the use of these large papier-mâché heads. They're often worn by parade participants or displayed on floats. Now, these oversized, often cartoonish heads are deeply connected to the crews, these secret society crews, and their themes that they stand for, which range from political satire to mythological figures. These heads have evolved into iconic representations of local culture and humor, and some of the most famous heads are worn by the Boeuf Gras. I'm absolutely butchering the accent. I know that I didn't take French in school, so do forgive me, but that basically translates to fat ox, and that symbolizes the last indulgence before Lent's fasting, and they're worn by members of the crews portraying kings, jesters, and mythical creatures. Over the years, the art of making papier-mâché heads has become a specialized craft passed down through generations of artists and craftspeople. And the heads are often detailed and brightly painted and sometimes feature moving parts, adding an element of whimsy and spectacle to the parades. I mean, imagine that coming down and just this giant head is squawking at you, and also you've also had a little bit of revelry on Canal Street and you're like, hang on, is this real? Or have I... what was in that drink? What's going on? That would definitely spin you out, I think. So that was Mardi Gras, and they were the papier-mâché heads, and financial services is like the former without the latter. It's just a party without the spectacle, unfortunately. So yeah, sounds like a lovely place to work. I'll make sure to send over my CV as soon as possible. Gotta love a job that's like a party. If you turn up and it's like a party, then you're not working a day in your life. I'm sure that's gonna be some corporate slogan to get people back into the office. And there we go, folks. That was every pop culture reference for Friends Season 1, Episode 8. The one where Nana dies twice. And now we've gone through them all, let's see where this episode stands on the scoreboard. Not a lot of references in this episode, I have to say. In fact, you can count them all on one hand, because once we've gone through them, you will see that for Friends Season 1, Episode 8, we only have 4 pop culture references explained. And so when we take a look at where that stands in the rankings of Season 1 thus far, it comes in 8th place, the lowest on the board thus far. It is Episode 8 in at 8th place with only 4 references. So yeah, not too many at all within this episode. In fact, one of them was repeated from Episode 1, so we could say technically 3, but I'm keeping 4 just to give it a little bit more credit. But even though there were so few, I did enjoy the yellow pencil one, because that is a fascinating little bit of trivia that I hope gets brought up in a pub quiz sometime, because I like that. That's why they're painted yellow. I really like that. But anyway, enough with the pop culture references. Let's take a look at a little bit of trivia. Nana has a painting on the wall in her closet which is identical to the one hanging in her bedroom. I just had a look back at this, and yeah, this painting here on her wall of this woman with the hat on, sure thing, that's out for everybody to see. Well, I say everybody to see, whoever's coming into her bedroom for her to see. But then as we cut away to get a view of inside the closet, there is the exact same painting hanging up. So I wonder what the deal is there. What's going on there? Did she get a deal? Was it like buy one, get one free? And she was like, well, I'll put one up to see. And I really like it. So I know what? When I go into my closet to put away all my National Geographics and my Sweet and Lows, I'll see it again. That's how much I love it. So I never have to be without it. Maybe that's why. I mean, that's the logic I can think to say for it. Nana's 2 deaths could be explained by Lazarus syndrome, which is extremely rare but well documented in medical literature. There are a variety of reasons a human could medically die but spontaneously return to life. While some patients recover, it's also very common, like in the case of Nana, for the patients to experience a second and final death within hours, days, or weeks. Well, that's terrifying, isn't it? That you could just die, and then for some reason you just get resurrected like the biblical Lazarus, and you're alive again. Oh, that's going to be a nice anxiety dream clouding my thoughts as I try to go to sleep tonight. Wonderful. This one is totally random. In the final scene, Chandler is speaking to a co-worker making coffee in the break room. The coffee mug the co-worker is holding says Devlin McGregor, which is a company responsible for making a drug called Provasic in the 1993 movie The Fugitive. While they're talking, the co-worker very deliberately turns the mug around to the other side, which reads Provasic, which was the wonder drug to treat liver disease in that movie. So for some reason, there is an obscure tie-in between Friends and The Fugitive, which I have to say is one of the greatest action movies ever made. Nay, not even action movies, one of the greatest films ever made. Fight me on it, I absolutely love it. But why would there be a prop from that fictional drug company with the fictional drug on it to be used? How strange. Obviously, The Fugitive was made by Warner Brothers, Friends was made by Warner Brothers, and so there must have just been this prop going about, and as they're dressing the set, they've just pulled it from the Warner Brothers studios and gone, yeah, we'll decorate with that. But how funny that in the Friends universe, the story of Richard Kimball exists. I love that. That is absolutely random. And finally, Another idea for the name of the coffee house, which was eventually called Central Perk, was Java Joe's. This idea was later reused in this episode when, on the picture of Nana and her own friends, Nana wrote, "Me and the gang at Java Joe's." And I have to say, I'm really glad that they went with Central Perk because it is so iconic a name now. But it is so great because Central Perk is quintessentially New York. Central Perk, Central Park. I only just got that. Like, it is so New York. If it would have just been Java Joe's, we don't know who Joe is. Who's Joe? I'm not going to finish the joke. Yeah, Java. Okay, we get that there's some coffee reference. Okay, but what? No. Central Perk. Perfect name for it. So yeah, I'm glad that they changed it, but how nice of them to put this little callback to the beginning of the writing process and just, oh, we'll save that and drop it in here. Very nice. And that's the trivia done with, and now just my little review on the episode. Before we start, before we talk about anything, can we just take a look at these chopsticks? Because I tell you something, I have always wanted a pair of those chopsticks with the color of them, the little knife and fork at the other end. Are you kidding me? They are absolutely beautiful and I need them. And I only just, when I watched this episode, realized how much I need them. I can use chopsticks perfectly fine. I love using chopsticks. But sometimes if you've got like a katsu curry, for example, and you want to cut into that little piece of chicken, oh, okay, you can split it with the thing, but switch that round, knife and they are absolutely gorgeous and I wish I had them. I wish I had them. But anyway, let's move on from that. Maybe if I ask Santa and I've been a good boy this year. Oh, fingers crossed. But this is yet just another brilliant episode within season 1. As I said many times thus far, for me, season 1 is one of the best seasons of the entire show because it just exists on its own. The season 2 through 10 is its own beast, but season 1 is something else. And it's just all the little details within it. There's a lot more, as I say, of these warm moments within season 1. And of course, this is a very difficult thing to talk about because it's a comedy show, but we're dealing with death and we're dealing with a funeral. And I mean, you've got to think it was kind of a big swing that they took to have a laugh track at a funeral. Like, that is something else. There's not many other sitcoms that did that. I mean, like, that is a place of solemnity, a place of mourning, and yet they make a joke out of it. Of course, it is a perfect place for humor because the absurdity of being solemn with being slapstick is completely ridiculous. So when Ross falls into the empty grave, that is a point of humor. But to actually get to see some of these warmer moments, like when they're in Nana's bedroom and he pulls the sweet and low and it's all falling on him and there's just that beautiful moment that they're all sharing, you know, with his mom and his aunt, and it's just all lovely. And what I find with this is the music. There is some beautiful music in the first season, just the little incidental bits between the scenes that you don't really get to hear in later episodes, in later seasons. And it just really struck me. I was like, wow, there's like 3 or 4 in this episode, particularly where it is just this tiny band doing something really beautiful. Obviously, you've got the down, 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 like that's a common one. But then just these lovely little bits of instrumental, which it's a real shame that they lost that later on. And as I say, these beautiful moments, you've got the sweet and low bit. You've got the bit where Judy and Monica are having a conversation. And there's a lot of humor in that because we're listening to how Judy is talking about how overbearing her mother was. And we have seen everything through the vocal point of Monica through the last 7 episodes preceding this, and how difficult her relationship with her mom, i.e. Judy. And so that whole conversation about like, should we, talk about it? And Judy's like, no, things don't have to be said out loud. We can just keep things on the quiet. And then she puts her hair behind her ear and says, you've got lovely earrings. And it's so nice just for this little compliment because she's been berating her basically ever since we've known her. She's just been putting her down, no compliments at all. And so this lovely shared moment is really beautiful. And then they follow up in the next scene. And this is the big example of this thing that I've talked about in previous videos where there is that warm, huggable moment that you don't get in later seasons. And it's the bit where they're sitting in the coffee shop and they're looking at the pictures and they go, oh, look, me and the gang at Java Joe's. Huh. Looks like a fun bunch of friends. And they're all sitting there and they just look at each other and they're like, yeah, we're friends. Look at us. We're like them. We think they're cool and we're cool. Isn't this lovely? And that is like one of those really warm hug sitcom moments where you're like, oh, isn't that nice? And the follow with the joke afterwards. That is the prime example. And whenever I talk about this concept that only appears in season 1, that is the one that I refer to because it is very much, yeah, that's the one. And then there was one in the George Stephanopoulos episode where Rachel's on the phone. She says, yeah, I'm fine. And everybody's playing Twister and it's like, oh, isn't that lovely? That is one. It is very sweet. It is poured, filled with saccharin, all those sweet and lows that fell on Ross. He must have just emptied them all into the script for that bit because it is a very sweet moment, a very artificially sweet moment, but still, maybe I'm just a bit bitter because I don't have any friends. I don't have that little situation there. But anyway, one of those really warm moments. And on a personal note, I've always very much related to this episode in particular because I may have talked about it before, but I've talked about it in my life, how I very much relate and see myself as a mirror to Chandler. Because as I was growing up watching Friends, I mean, I was only a kid. I was 4 when Friends came out. So I was watching it from a young age, like season 3, so like 6 or 7 years old. It would be on Channel 4 over in England. And I started watching it then. And I just loved it. I absolutely loved the setup of it, and I'd get the VHS and I would watch it, and there'd be only 4 episodes per VHS, and I'd watch all 4 and then I'd rewind and watch it again. I knew the script to all of them, and it was Chandler who I'm most associated with for a variety of reasons. He was an only child and I'm an only child. He had this very sarcastic humor, and as I grew up, my humor kind of matched his. Like, he very much influenced my personality and my humor. And one thing that is in this is that Chandler is often thought to be gay, and that is something that has come up in my life many times. I'm heterosexual, I'm straight, but in workplaces, in social gatherings, people often think that I'm gay, and I'm not. I'm straight. And so, yeah, it's just one of those funny things that there have been a lot of parallels between mine and Chandler's life. I mean, a lot of things on paper that you would say, like, no, these are facts. Like, his parents got divorced, only child, stuff like that. I'm like, yep, me. Some of the awkwardness with women, the humor, I'm like, yep. And even this little thing as well about, oh, he has a quality that people think that he's gay, and that has also happened with me as well. I'm just like, how funny that mine and Chandler's lives are somewhat mirrored. Is that because it's just the way it happens? They happen to be 2 paths that run parallel to one another? Or is it that being influenced by that has actually had a sort of knock on that? Who knows? It's nature nurture, I suppose. Would that be a good example of that? I don't know. But anyway, I've always liked this episode. There's some really good bits in it, some really funny bits in it. The bit where they're having the Chinese takeaway and Chandler's talking about, oh, so people think I'm gay. And Ross goes, yeah, and tells the story about how he told the girl who Chandler had a crush on back in high school that he was gay, and that he was dating someone else who wanted to get with her as well. So that, I love that. I think that is absolutely fantastic. The way that Joey's like, yeah, he's like, what? I think that's absolutely brilliant. It is so well delivered as well. And the bit where Ross is high on painkillers because he's done his backing after falling into the empty grave, and he admits to Rachel that he's in love with her. And he's like, oh, I love you too. Like, oh, you don't get it. Bam. That is absolutely brilliant, because we all know that Ross and Rachel gets together. It is one of the biggest love stories, basically, of media in the last 20 years. But for him to just admit it like that, I can imagine at the time not knowing what was going to come next to be like oh gosh, as if he just said that. Like, oh no, as if he just admitted that. And the fact that Rachel takes it as a joke, like, yeah, I could definitely see that being a moment of her, as if he just came out with that. But of course, Christina Pickles and Elliot Gould as Judy and Jack absolutely own it. They are absolutely fantastic. And that is the beauty of having these shows where you've got a cast of kind of unknown actors. Like when they started out, they were very fresh. They'd only been in a few things before. Someone may recognize them from a different project, but you have the possibility then to hire bigger names within different roles that aren't, all the time. They're just recurring, but very small. And so to have those 2 wonderful actors as Monica and Ross's parents, absolutely brilliant, because they are so talented. They are so funny. They just deliver so well. When Jack is talking about being buried at sea, when Judy is talking about how her mother would have hated this funeral, Absolutely fantastic. And furthermore, Christina Pickles actually earned an Emmy nomination for her work in this episode, just going to show how fantastic she is in this episode. But yeah, there is so much humor in this episode against the backdrop of what should be something sad, but still they managed to take something which is, you know, upsetting and very emotional and add levity and lightness to it. And yeah, what a great show. And there we go, folks. That is the end of the video. Thank you so much for being here. As I mentioned before, the comment section is open down below, so feel free to leave any thoughts that you've had from this video down there. I always love reading through them. And if you enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a like. And if you don't want to miss out on future videos, why not hit the subscribe button as well? Because any videos to do with Friends, Gilmore Girls, or any other shows that I'll be covering in the future, you won't miss out if you hit the subscribe button. And as I've mentioned before, I also have a Patreon as well. The link will be in the description down below. And if you head over to there, there are different ways to support. Any supporters, this is the time now that you will have the thanks from me for being a supporter and producer of these videos. But also over there are a few tiers that give you exclusive access to content that won't appear on any public forums. And there will be my short explaining jokes videos, and in time, my full-length videos such as this on TV shows that I won't be covering on my YouTube channel. So make sure to head over there as well. And yeah, I'll hopefully see you over there. But that is the outro done. And the only thing left for me to do is to thank you once again for being here, my friends. Luck and more to you all, and catch you next time.